So we're gonna go ahead and run through what I call faux fried rice. As you saw, I'm gonna use riced cauliflower. I'm gonna add in some mixed vegetables. I'm gonna add in some nice green onion, and I'm gonna add in, well, I had a piece of asparagus, so I'm gonna just toss that in there with it. It's been asked that I explain how to pick produce. When you're picking your green onions, you want to make sure that the stalks are nice and firm, that they're not limping, like the top of the greens aren't folding over and just looking really gross. If there's any like wilted areas on the tops, don't choose that one. You want to go with the freshest you can find. The ones I'm using, I've had in the fridge for about a week, and theirs are getting a little limp, so I gotta use them or lose them, you know. Traditionally, fried rice is clearly rice. You have eggs, you have green onion, and a lot of times they'll put in chopped up ham. My version is not gonna have the ham, it's gonna have egg substitute, and I'm using riced cauliflower instead of rice. But if you are just looking for a way to lighten up your dish, you go half rice, half riced cauliflower. It's really up to you. Personally, I'm trying to make it more of a vegetable dish versus, you know, a carb dish. So we're gonna just rock it out as a vegetable, and it's gonna be a side and not really a main portion of the meal. But let's get into it. Alright guys, so I'm gonna go ahead and chop up these onions. I'm not gonna do anything special with them. I'm just gonna cut them into rounds. And for this, we don't need to separate the whites and the greens. So you just keep it all together. Make it nice and simple. Now when you're cutting them, you know, you want to make them small, but they don't have to be super thin, but you're going to want to be able to keep them fairly thin. So if you're not real good with chopping, this will be a good opportunity to practice. So like I said, we don't have to separate it like we did for the last video. We're just going to keep it all together. I happen to have a piece of asparagus that I got out of the garden. There was only one left, but I'm going to go ahead and throw that in with this also. I mean, it's not a required part of any kind of fried rice or anything like that, but I don't want it to go bad, so I'm just going to go ahead and slice this on a bias and toss it in. So that's the end of my prep. That's all I got to do for right now. Alright guys, to start off, I'm going to spray my pan with a little bit of olive oil spray. What I'm using is 2/3 of a cup of the eggs, which is the equivalent of about 3 eggs. Now when you're scrambling this, you don't want to cook them all the way through and get them nice and real firm. You want to try to leave it a little bit runny, because it's going to go back into the hot skillet later. So it's going to be a pretty quick process here. And it's going to, you know, take a little bit of guesswork on when it's done. And I'd say it's about done right now. As you can see, I'm just going to reuse the pan. I'm not even going to wash it. I'm just going to add my riced cauliflower in. And I just made a huge mess. Don't do that. Mine has been in the freezer a little too long. It's kind of formed into a nice block instead of loose rice cauliflower. So we're going to melt this down a little bit and get it nice and rice looking. That might take a few minutes. So it's been about a minute 30. And as you can see, it's starting to defrost pretty good. I broke up the large chunks. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add in the asparagus that I cut, because it's going to take a little bit longer to cook just because it's bigger pieces. And it can partially steam while this defrosts. Alright guys, at this point, all of the riced cauliflower has defrosted and it's individual pieces, and I went ahead and turned the heat down to about medium to make sure we don't start burning, because I'm not going to add any additional liquid in here. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add my green onions so that it has a chance to really permeate and spread the flavor through all of this. And we're going to try and mix that in and get it blended in there really well. We're going to go ahead and let that sit for a few minutes and really try to pull those oils out of the green onions and spread it all through the dish now. So, alright guys, as you can see, it's really nice and dry on the bottom. It's really starting to cook. If you could smell it, you'd know what I'm talking about. But the green onions have really permeated the whole skillet. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and add back my eggs. And see how firm it is now, because it was sitting there and it just continued to cook after we'd taken it off. But we took it off with plenty of time so that you're not going to have eggy tasting little chewy balls of BB type of stuff. You know, you want it to be nice and smooth, not overcooked. So to this point, I haven't added any kind of salt. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple of pinches of salt, but as always, the amount of salt is really up to you. So you know your tastes and how much you want to season things, so you be the judge. And if you let this sit without stirring it for a couple of, probably like 10-15 seconds, that egg will start to get a little caramelization on it. So it adds another dimension to your dish. Because traditionally with real rice, you'll let it cook and you'll get crunchy bits of rice as it was frying. So if you want to try to replicate that, you can. It just takes a little bit of patience, and you gotta keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't burn. Alright guys, I've let this sit for probably a minute and a half. At this point, I'm gonna go ahead and add in some of my mixed vegetables. The main reason I do this is because it adds a lot of color, makes it a lot more appealing. It makes it a little bit, more healthy, because you're gonna get a little bit of carrots, a little bit of all your vegetables, But because it's not rice and I don't have any ham in here, you need a little bit of contrast with the color. I mean, immediately you can see how it brightens up the dish just from all those little chunks of carrot. And this will probably take, I don't know, 45 seconds to heat all that through and thaw it out. Alright guys, I'm going to plate it up now. It's been about a minute and a half. So we're going to go to the serving bowl now. And as you can see, There are some really intense colors in there. It looks really appealing. It took like 5 ingredients and a grand total of 12 minutes for me to do it. You know, chopping the green onion and opening the packages and just pouring it in as I needed to. And there you have it. My faux fried rice. Alright guys, so as you saw, the rice cauliflower, the faux fried rice, really fast, really easy. It just, you know, rice cauliflower, green onions, egg or egg substitute, and if you want you can put in the mixed vegetables. If you don't want, you don't have to. If you just want to use corn, you can just use corn. If you just want peas, you can just use peas. Doesn't matter, that's up to you. If you want me to tell you how to make it with ham, shoot me a message or a comment and I can tell you how to chop that. You can make this as healthy as you want to. You could use real eggs if you wanted to, but when you're mixing your eggs, you want to make sure that you really mix it so that you don't have any whites when you cook it, because like I said before, with Chinese food, it's all about colors and simple flavor. So you don't want streaks of white running through your scrambled egg, because it's not as good of a presentation really. But as always, thank you for watching. If you haven't yet, click subscribe, make sure you like the video, and look up my man Verse.